Hey, it's Shayna, also known as Shayna Lines Designs. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a 3-needle bind off. I'm going to do it a few different times and there will be time stamps. I'm going to show it once on the right side of the fabric, the stockinette side in this case. I'm going to show it once on the reverse stockinette side, and then I'm going to show also joining live stitches on both sides and not binding off, but doing a join if you were connecting pieces but wanted to still knit along. So for the purpose of this little study, I have 10 stitches that I've knit in stockinette stitch. I'm going to be joining the same piece to itself, and I'm going to be using this yellow yarn so you can see what I'm doing. And so what you'll need for this is live stitches, 2 sets of live stitches, the same number of stitches on each side, and you'll need you're going to use, it's called a 3-needle bind off because you need 3 needles. So I have one very long circular needle on this bottom, and I have a shorter circular needle that's on the top. I'm going to walk through and show how to do all 3 of these versions. The first way I'm going to show is putting the 3-needle bind off on the wrong side, on the inside of the work. When we create the 3-needle bind off, and you'll be able to see it, like I said, with this contrast color, it's going to create a raised seam. So another version of joining live stitches is grafting. I have a tutorial showing grafting. It's shown on a fidget toy, but it's applicable to the toe of a sock, the top of a hat. Anytime you have live stitches that you want to join and you want a flat seam, what we're creating right here will create a raised seam, and I will show you what that looks like. So I'm inserting my spare needle tip. I'm going to be creating the 3-needle bind off on the wrong side, so I have the right sides facing in, and I'm going to insert my needle into the front stitch, and then let's see if I can show you this, and then through the back stitch, both as if to knit. I'm going to kind of get ready, and then I'm going to knit those 2 stitches together. You see that right there? Just drop that off the needle. So now what was 2 stitches became 1 stitch. I'm going to go ahead with my next stitch, knit 2 together, and now I want to bind off, and so I'm going to bring this stitch over the stitch I just did, and I'm going to keep going in that fashion. Insert into the front, insert into the back, wrap my yarn as if to knit, and then bind off. I'll go ahead and make it the whole way across. So you can see you need to have the same number of stitches because you're joining 1 stitch from each needle at a time. If somehow you got to the end and you had 1 last stitch, just do your best. Make your best judgment to figure out how you would like your piece. Let me finish these up and then I'll show you what it looks like. I'm all the way to the end. I have my last stitch and I can just, do I have scissors? Yes. Can cut this working yarn. I just pulled the needle out to make a bit of a loop, and I can pull that through to secure it, and I can weave that in, but I want to show you what it looks like. I have created basically I've bound off the stitches on the wrong side of the fabric. Again, I've used a contrast color so we can clearly see where that is, and so if I flip this little piece inside out, you can see that I've actually added that little row of stitches. So normally you probably wouldn't do that in a contrast color, but maybe you would. It creates a little bit of a ridge of fabric. So as I said, if you want a smoother seam, I would suggest grafting the stitches, but in many cases this 3-needle bind off works out great. I'm going to take this apart and then show you how to do it on the right side of the fabric. Reclaimed my stitches, and I am going to demonstrate what it looks like to put the 3-needle bind off on the right side of the fabric. You'll see this sometimes as a decorative trim, detail. It might be a nice detail that's shown on a design at a shoulder seam. It's something else. And so again, it's looking basically the same as we just did on the wrong side of the fabric, but this time the wrong sides are facing in. So, so I'm going to insert my needle into the front and then into the back. See, my stitches are a little loose right there. Wrap my yarn and pull it off. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bind off a few, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like if I just use, I guess I'll call it a 3-needle decrease. I used it in a couple of projects, so I'd like to have a place where I can reference this as well. So you can see I'm just taking one of my needle tips, pulling it back over each time, binding off a stitch as I join the front and the back of my fabric together. So I think what I'm planning to do here, seem to have split the yarn. That's okay. I'll bind off that stitch. Yeah. And so let's see if I can show you that. So now the 3-needle bind off is happening on the right side of the fabric. This one, it actually looks kind of neat if it's a different color. I guess you sort of see where the loops are on one side. So often this is done in the same as the main color. Now I'm going to switch and I'm going to show you what it looks like just joining these sides of the fabric and then leaving the stitches live. This is a technique that I use in my Drawn Together cowl, where you're creating a channel for the drawstring to fit in. And it's also really similar. I have another video where I show how to create stockinette welts. And this is actually pretty much the same thing, where you're joining two sides of the fabric and then you're going to keep going with the live stitches. That's kind of how I think about it. So for the rest of the row, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just knit the front stitch and the back stitch together, but I'm not binding it off. I just want to show you what the difference is. So I'll just get through to the end of my row here. And get my last one. And so move that other needle. And so now I've kind of done a hybrid for you. I have used a 3-needle bind off on a few stitches, and then I've actually joined these stitches. So this is a similar technique if, as I said, if you had a provisional cast on edge and you were joining fabric, you'd be creating a channel of some sort. I use a version of this in the Drawn Together cowl where I use this join, which I would call a knit two together, one from the front, one from the back. I use a combination of knit two together and purl two together to create the knit or the purl fabric. And so if you look closely right there, you can see the two sides, like the two gray stitches are right back there. And those are the two sides of the fabric that we have joined together. So that is my offering for a 3-needle bind off on the wrong side, on the right side, or I should say on the purl side, on the knit side, and then using it as a 3-needle join. Let me know if you have any questions.